Welcome to today's Queer God Squad. It's Thursday, March 28th, 2024. I am Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral.
I am Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin, the executive minister. Faith and religion can be complicated for the LGBTQ+ community. Surveys show that evangelical faith is the justification for the greatest attacks on the LGBTQ+ community.
I am Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Minister of Education. The Queer God Squad is going to explore our religious community. Let's explore the big news of the day and what it means to you. This is live, and then we are available on demand. We are available on all smart televisions and your favorite social media.
At Sunshine Cathedral, we are here to tell you that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Queer Faith Reaction. It's Transgender Day of Visibility. But is the LGBTQ+ community tiring of supporting the trans community? While tensions and misunderstandings can arise within any community, it's critical to recognize that solidarity among LGBTQ+ individuals remains strong, especially when it comes to the trans community. As we are aware, the International Trans Day of Visibility is around the corner. The whole world celebrates this day on March 31st to support and celebrate the diverse trans culture. The LGBTQ+ community has a long history of standing together in support of each other's rights and identities. However, it's essential to acknowledge that the transgender community often faces unique challenges and marginalization, even within the broader LGBTQ+ community spectrum. States like Florida and Texas prove this as they consistently try to pass hateful anti-trans legislation. The Christian faith and evangelical community top the list for trans hate. Even when the awareness around transgender issues is growing, some individuals still struggle to fully understand or empathize with the specific experiences of transgender people. Unfortunately, we still see some known personalities of the LGBTQ community failing to understand trans issues and rejecting trans rights in healthcare, sports, entertainment, and other sectors, including education. Do large parts of our own community think we would all be better off by abandoning trans siblings? At Queer God Squad, we encourage all the allies and advocates of the LGBTQ+ community to actively listen and uplift transgender voices. Rather than growing tired, this day serves as a reminder of the ongoing need for solidarity and inclusivity. What do you think? Well, I think, number one, that we have to continue to ensure that our trans brothers and sisters are protected. And I think that it's time that we also recognize that our community is not a homogeneous community. There are some of us that think one way and some of us that think another way. I will never personally understand a log cabin Republican, but that's just me. To have our community split over an issue like this is not something that I see happening. Now, I am going to say that within our community, there have been times when people of color were not considered safe within our community. I know that a church organization that I'm a member of once had a group that called, I forget its actual name, but it was Blacks and Whites Trying to Overcome Racism. So we know that it happens within every community, that sometimes problems arise. But with this one, especially with this one, we're talking about our trans siblings being murdered on the street simply for being who they are. We're talking about legislation to just remove them from the face of the earth. And it makes no sense to me. We've talked at this table in the past about the trans community representing about 1% of America. Why are conservative, mostly conservative politicians going so hard against that 1%? Because everybody needs a boogeyman. And right now, our trans siblings are the boogeyman. And I think that it's time that our community stand up as loud as possible, especially this month, especially when we're acknowledging our trans siblings. We're saying that they need to be seen, they need to be heard, and we need to make sure that we're standing side by side with them.
There is a name for a theological dialogue called theopoetics, and I love theopoetics because it doesn't argue about hypotheses and dogmas and doctrines and creeds, and it starts with the same place that the artist starts, and the poets and the dramatists and the musicians, with this innate understanding that people need to see each other. They need to be seen and they need to see. They need to help and they need to be helped. They need to affirm and they need to be affirmed. And so that artistic sensibility, the theo poets bring to the religious conversation, and then that's where they start. That's where they start reading scripture. That's where they start doing liturgy. That's where they start their sermons, is with this idea that humanity has a shared need, and we can affirm ourselves, we can affirm one another, and we need that. We need to be seen, and we need to do the seeing. We need to lift up someone, and we need to be lifted up. And the poets get it, and the songwriters get it. Sadly, the religious people are sometimes the last to get it. And so if you're having trouble with theology, I suggest theopoetics. I think it's better. Well, the Transgender Day of Visibility is an annual day of recognition around the world dedicated to celebrating the accomplishments of transgender and gender expansive people, while also raising awareness that there's still work to be done to overcome discrimination and violence toward the transgender community. Until the Transgender Day of Visibility, the Trans Day of Remembrance was the only trans-focused day of recognition. What I love a lot about the Transgender Day of Visibility this year is that it's on Easter. March 31st.
Yes.
The Easter narrative says that Jesus is vilified, condemned, tortured, and then locked away in a tomb, or a closet, you might say.
Yes.
But on Easter, he is visible again. His story rises. His hopes for his people come back to life. His dream for the future didn't disappear entirely. In the movement that memorialized him, Jesus was visible again. So this Easter, I'll be thinking about my transgender friends, and I'll be grateful for the ways they get to be visible. And I will be holding in my heart those who are still waiting to be truly seen.
You know, I think in any community, there's going to be that angst of not doing enough. Are we doing enough? Are we doing it? Why don't they stand out? Why don't they speak up for themselves? And I think that when we think about the T of our community, that I want to say to them that Sunshine Cathedral sees you, we affirm you, validate you for who you are.
Yes.
And on this day of visibility, I think it's all of our responsibility to stand with our trans brothers and sisters, or however they identify, and to live into who they are and what they mean. And let's nourish that community. It might have just thought that's just a gay community, or the lesbian community, the gay and lesbian community. It expand and expand. And honestly, I'm waiting for the next expansion. Because there's more on the scale to evolve and to come out. But on this day, this is your day to be visible, and I want you to stand out, because I want you to own who you are and to be given the respect for your journey, and given the love and appreciation of what you've gone through to be the person that you are this day. And I think we have to, those who are allies and those in the gay community, we have to also be a part of the community that stands up and fight for the rights that are being just dismantled daily in some states, and the persecution that takes place, and to stand with our brothers and sisters and say, we're with you and that you're not alone.
Yeah, that's one of the things that people do, and I hate this, and I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle, but I can't stop, is that they take a book, they take a text that they know precious little about. I mean, they may know a lot of the words, but they don't know much about how it came to be. And they'll take that and they look it up and they say, this is what I can be against. This is who I can hurt. And they define being faithful by drawing all these lines. And the lines, they say, oh, we got it from the book. And the book came from God, except it didn't. I don't know well, God speaks all languages, because God is all languages. God is everything. But people wrote that, and they wrote it out of motive, and they wrote it to particular communities, and they wrote it with cultural understandings and biases and assumptions, and they wrote it with personal agendas and prejudices. They wrote it with their great genius and with their ignorance. And the texts mean nothing on the paper. Texts come alive when they're read.
Yes.
And the reader makes the meaning. And so I hate that what we're up against is people say, I've got a magic book, and the magic book says you're scum, and it's my job to enforce that. And somehow you are the godless heathen if you don't agree with me. That is a bizarre mindset, I think, for the 21st century, and it is ubiquitous in this country. I think it's why a lot of countries, European countries, have abandoned religion largely, because it seems so crazy and so mean and so unreasonable. And it's going down here. The popularity is going down here, but it's still a lot, and it's very politically powerful. And so this idea that there's a magic book that allows me, even demands that I hate you, and that's me being faithful by doing that, and you're persecuting me if you don't thank me for that. That is a bizarre attitude. I hate that attitude, but that is what we're up against. And that's why I mentioned theopoetics earlier. We got to get away from worshiping the text and get back to celebrating humanity, human causes, human need, human potential, and then bring that to the text and make the text useful. But if you start with the text and make it an idol, only pain results.
And when you look at that text, our queer community is in that text all over the place.
Oh, you got hate mail the other day. I think I deleted it, but you got hate mail.
I would have loved
because you said something like that 4 or 5 episodes ago, and they said that Reverend Tizzle guy says that there's gay people in the Bible, and he's just making it up and trying to justify his sinful lifestyle. Blah blah.
Oh my gosh! Tell them to actually read the damn book.
Well, I
the
told him
book
you're right.
has me in it. The book has you in it, and it's always funny when they take that magic book and they read a line. They never read the line before or the line after that gives context. And what a word, context. You have to understand what you're talking about in order to make sense. And most of the folk that read that one line don't make a lot of sense.
And language is idiomatic. And if you don't know the figures of speech of a language at a certain time, you don't know what someone was trying to say.
Yeah.
If you don't know that being in the belly of a fish is an idiom for having a problem, you might think some dude lived in a fish for half a week.
Yeah.
But no. And so, this worship of anonymous texts. These were written by long dead strangers. These worship of anonymous texts as an excuse to be abusive. That's what we're up against. And I don't know how we can win. I don't know if we can win. But I know that I can't stop pushing this water uphill because there's just too much damage being done with that sort of fundamentalist mindset. And we've got to challenge it. We just have to challenge it.
Keep those cards and letters coming.
Well, I think a piece of, just for me, as a piece of it also, is that I'm so sick and tired of people trying to say what God intended or what God said. And I just want them to think for a moment, that's your God. That is not my God. So if your God has the need to do all these evil things to justify somebody's existence, then that's yours. That is not my God. Because everybody who's trying to say what God said and trying to put that off on me, it's like, that is not the God that I understand. That is not the God that I need in my life. And I'm so tired of people trying to really push that agenda also. God said it. I believe it. God didn't say anything in the Bible. God didn't say anything. God didn't write the Bible. But yet you're trying to say God said this and God. Take another look, people.
That's the point.
And quit putting it off on the boogeyman for your own fears and your own concerns, and trying to bring harm and damage to a community of people. That's you.
This isn't my opinion. This is my prejudice. That's what God said.
Right. No.
You sound insane. Is what you sound. You sound insane when you say things like that.
And if you've been to seminary, I'm going to say this to every preacher. If you've been to seminary, you know better.
Oh, yes, you do.
If you stand in the pulpit, have been to seminary, have any type of educational background around theological understanding of Scripture, you know better, and shame on you.
Somebody came for you also. Somebody came for you also. They did. Well, it's always me, so I'm glad to share it.
Oh, good.
They said, because you said something like that, and they said,
there goes angry black man again?
No. It wasn't that one this time. It wasn't that one this time. But what had you just gone on about? What was your just rant just then?
About preachers who know better.
Yes.
Seminary.
About he said, but y'all don't even know the Bible. The Dr. What's to say, blah, 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 but he didn't even know the Bible. And so I just said, everyone at that table, between those four people, because Reverend Ann is here
Right.
a lot, and between those four people, there are 7 graduate degrees. I said, if they know anything else, they know stuff about the Bible. And so then he switched tactic. He's like, well, but you don't understand what God says. So yeah, you don't know anything. Oh, and then when I show you, we have transcripts to say we do know. Oh, well, now you don't understand. What's that old country, an educated fool, you know what I mean? So yeah, but that is normative, that their worldview, that's what's normal. The invisible guy who, and it is a guy, right? Always a guy. The invisible guy who has never spoken to anyone except maybe in your heart, which you can't verify, or maybe on a page by people you can't tell me 3 things about. But that's God telling you, and and there's no way you could get it wrong. But somehow this omnipotent God needs you to enforce that.
Exactly.
And you don't say how silly that sounds.
Why is it, if it's so important, why has God got to tell you and not tell me? I don't get that.
That's
So-
a nice point.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't get it.
I'm such a humanist and such a poet and artist. If you could make you just an argument that I could not refute, even in my own head I couldn't refute it, that there is no God, I'd still put this collar on and go to work today. Because I value community, I value art, I value questions, I value searching, I value doing it in relationship. Okay, if there's no God, then what is life's meaning? What is life all about? Let's keep looking. And I would still do this. So yeah, you're trying to tell me that God told you something, and I'm telling you it's almost tangential if there even is a God for me.
Wow, I love it.
Because God is the word I use for what's really real.
Right.
Something's really real.
Yeah.
And we're going to look for it. So, but what God isn't for me and can't be is some dude with an attitude problem.
Right.
And so, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ plus community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's largest progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. And we are all in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until the next time, we are the Queer God Squad. See ya.